So now what we need to do is clean up some of these walls to make them straight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my top view and go back to my sub-object mode, and I'm going to turn on my snapping. Okay, so now at this point we're going to straighten all these and make sure they line up. So I'll select my vertex and I'm going to snap it to the vertices. Make sure everything is straight here. And sometimes it's easier, if we want, we can turn off our floor plan. Now to do that, I'm going to create a new layer right here. This button here creates a new layer, and I'm going to call it FP, floor plan. I'll say OK, and I'm going to select my floor plan and hit this plus button. And you can see right now I have my floor plan layer selected. I'm going to hit this plus button, and it's going to add this floor plan to that layer. So now, if I turn this layer on and off, it'll turn off my floor plan. So let's make sure we go back to our default layer, to our walls. Now we can make sure everything is going to be nice and straight. And I'm actually going to uncheck this test tube to show the end result. And the reason I do that is because a lot of times I can see, if I have a jagged line, I know that it's not a straight wall. So that's kind of an indication for me to straighten that wall out. So now I can go back and make sure all these lines are straight. And I can see it very quickly in just wireframe mode. Okay, so now we have most of these walls straightening out. Now where we have doors, it's very important for these lines to line up. So I'll select these vertices and make sure they line up with the adjacent vertices on the other side. It's very important to make sure that they line up correctly. I'll do the same with these and make sure they line up. There we go. Again, we'll do that with these. There we go. Now we had a strange vertex here where we did a click and drag. Now there is a way to fix that. You know, if you click on it, you'll see it has this handle. What this is, it's a Bezier handle that controls the way that it curves. So to change it back to a corner vertex, right click on it and switch it to corner. So now when you move it around, it's just a corner vertex. That's an easy way to fix that. So let's make sure these vertices line up in our X direction with our bottom wall. And you'll find later when we do the top part of our wall that it's important that they do line up. Zoom in here and select this vertex and this vertex. And we'll select this vertex and this vertex. Just the top ones. Make sure that they line up. There we go. Oop. So we're just making sure that all of our vertices are straight and they're lining up with the adjacent walls. Everything looks good. So now we can get out of sub-object mode and check extrude. So let's go to perspective, just take a look. So we have our 8 feet walls. Now we have a gap here that we were talking about how to line these up, and I'll show you how we can close that off. So if we go back to our top mode, go into our sub-object mode and our vertex mode, what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend these vertices beyond this line right here, just like that. And similar to AutoCAD, we can actually trim these segments together. So if you scroll down, there's a trim right here. Now you'll see it's grayed out. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to trim it. It only works under spline mode. So make sure you're in spline and you can see that it activates. So we're going to select our spline and we're going to hit trim. And we're going to trim the areas that we want to cut off. So we're going to hit this one right here and this point right here. It doesn't want to trim because these two are lined up together. So what we're going to do is I'm going to undo, Control Z. Before we trim, I'm going to grab a segment. So I'm going to go to segment mode, select this segment, and actually extend it down. So you can see now they're overlapping. And go back to spline, and you can trim. You see now that I'm trimming the adjacent segments. There's another option you can do, and you can actually Boolean them together. And I'm going to get out of trim mode. I'm going to say Boolean. So I'm select Boolean, and you can see this one right here is a union between the two. So now I'm going to select the other spline. You can see it joins them together. Now I've got some extra verts we can get rid of. You can see I've got these two verts I don't really need. You can select them and hit delete. When you hit delete, it'll actually connect them automatically. Again, we want them to straighten out, so I'm going to move these verts up, and I'm going to snap this vert over to the next one. There. And so now we're back in business. Now, what's interesting about doing the trims and the Booleans is even for your corner splines, it converts them to Beziers. So right now you can see it's a Bezier corner. It's fine until you start moving the handle. It's really not a problem. But if you're careful or you want to be really cautious, you can just convert it back to a corner. So there. And now when we go back out of our sub-object mode and go to extrude, you can see that we have our wall. So I'm going to turn our floor plan back on so we can see where we're at. So as you can see now we have our basic walls. We've done the first part in creating our unit. I'm going to go to perspective, and for the most part our walls look good. So that's how you create the walls.